The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the eye could see. 12 massive seats formed a circle around the center floor, each one holding a different alien species. Some looked like walking crystals that glowed with inner light. Others had tentacles instead of arms and breathed through gills on their necks. A few looked almost human, but their skin was blue and their eyes were completely black. In the center of this enormous room stood 3 humans. Captain Jake Morrison wore his best military uniform, but it looked simple and plain compared to the flowing robes and strange armor of the aliens around him. Next to him stood Dr. Lisa Carter, a woman with short brown hair who kept checking her tablet nervously. On his other side was Commander Ryan Blake, a tall man with broad shoulders who watched everything with careful eyes. The humans had been standing there for 3 hours. Their feet hurt and their backs ached, but none of them showed it. They knew that millions of humans across the galaxy were watching this trial through news feeds. Whatever happened here would decide the fate of their entire species. Elder Zixthera spoke first. She was the leader of the Vorthak, a race that looked like living glass sculptures. When she talked, her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Humans of Earth," she said, "you stand accused of crimes against galactic peace." Jake Morrison stepped forward. "We're ready to hear the charges, Elder." Another alien stood up. This one had 4 arms and skin that changed colors like a mood ring. "You have expanded too fast across our galaxy. In just 200 years, you have claimed over 50 star systems. Most civilized races take thousands of years to spread so far." Dr. Carter spoke up. "We needed those worlds, honored council member. Our population was growing and Earth was becoming overcrowded. We followed all the proper procedures for claiming uninhabited systems." A creature that looked like a giant slug with tiny arms waved dismissively. "Procedures, yes, but you ignored the spirit of galactic law. You were supposed to ask permission first, then wait for our approval. This process usually takes 50 to 100 years. You simply moved to these worlds and told us about it later." Commander Blake's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Jake Morrison remained calm. "We informed the council within the required time frame. Our people needed homes." Elder Zixthera's crystal body flashed red. "That brings us to our second charge. You are too violent. When the Skorath pirates attacked your mining colony on Kepler 442, what did you do? Did you try to negotiate? Did you offer them tribute to leave peacefully? No. You sent warships and destroyed their entire fleet. They were killing innocent people," Jake Morrison said, his voice growing harder. "They had already murdered 300 colonists, including children. We gave them one chance to surrender." "Violence should always be the last option," said a floating jellyfish-like creature. "The Skorath had legitimate grievances about territorial boundaries. With proper meditation and discussion, we could have reached a peaceful solution in only 20 or 30 years. Dr. Carter stepped forward. 20 or 30 years? How many more people would have died while we talked?" "Death is temporary," said the slug creature. "Disrupting galactic harmony affects everyone for generations." Commander Blake couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Temporary? Tell that to the families who lost their loved ones." The aliens began making angry noises. Some hissed, others clicked their tongues, and a few flashed different colors. Elder Zixthera raised one crystal hand for silence. "This is exactly what we mean," she said. "Humans always choose the quick, violent solution. You don't think about consequences. You don't consider other options, you just act." A new voice spoke from the largest seat in the circle. The creature sitting there looked like a tree, with eyes and a mouth in its trunk. "There is also the matter of the Centauri incident." Jake Morrison's face went pale. He had hoped they wouldn't bring that up. 3 of your exploration ships discovered an ancient artifact on Proxima Centauri B. Instead of contacting the council and waiting for our archaeological teams, you immediately began studying it yourselves. The artifact was clearly of precursor origin, making it a protected site under galactic law. "We didn't know," Dr. Carter said quickly. "We thought it was just an old piece of technology." "Ignorance is not an excuse," the tree creature replied. "Your scientists activated the artifact without permission. The energy pulse it released was detected across 3 star systems. We still don't know what damage you might have caused to local spacetime. Elder Zixthara stood up from her crystal throne. Her body now glowed bright white, which meant she was very angry. Humans represent everything that is wrong with younger species. You are impatient, aggressive, and reckless. You solve problems with violence instead of wisdom. You take what you want instead of asking politely. You disturb ancient sites instead of leaving them alone. She paused and looked directly at Jake Morrison. Most importantly, you refuse to learn. Every time we try to teach you proper behavior, you argue with us. You claim your way is better. You show no respect for civilizations that have existed for millions of years. The other council members began nodding and making sounds of agreement. Jake Morrison felt his heart sinking. This wasn't a trial. It was a predetermined judgment. Dr. Carter tried one last time. Honored Council, humanity is still young. We make mistakes, yes, but we learn from them. Give us time to grow and change. We can become better. We have given you time, said the slug creature. 200 years of patience, and you have only gotten worse. Your expansion continues. Your violence increases. Your disrespect for authority grows stronger. Elder Zixthara raised both crystal arms above her head. The Galactic Council has reached its decision. Humanity is hereby banished from all council space. You have 30 standard days to evacuate every human settlement within our territory. You will retreat to the Galactic Rim, to the regions we call the Abyss. You are forbidden from returning to civilized space until you have learned to control your dangerous nature. The hall fell completely silent. Jake Morrison felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Billions of humans, scattered across dozens of worlds, would have to abandon their homes and businesses. They would be forced to move to the dark, unexplored regions at the edge of the galaxy where no one knew what dangers waited. But Jake Morrison was a soldier, and soldiers didn't break down in public. He stood straight and looked Elder Zixthara in the eye. We accept your judgment, Elder. He paused, then added quietly, but I think you're making a mistake. You think you're protecting the galaxy from us, but maybe you're just protecting yourselves from what we might become out there in the dark. The crystal being's glow flickered for just a moment, but she said nothing. The three humans turned and walked out of the great hall, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Behind them, the council members began discussing practical matters like shipping schedules and border patrols. None of them noticed the small smile on Jake Morrison's face as he left the room. 6 months had passed since the banishment. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the stars of the Abyss sector. These stars were different from the bright, well-mapped suns of council space. Here, the light was dimmer, and vast patches of complete darkness stretched between solar systems. Admiral, we're getting another distress call from New Boston Colony, reported Lieutenant Amy Chen from her communication station. They're running low on medical supplies again. Kate rubbed her tired eyes. Sleep had become a luxury she couldn't afford. Every day brought new problems. Food shortages, equipment failures, people getting sick from the strange radiation that filled this part of space. The 30-day evacuation had been a nightmare, but somehow they had managed to move over 2 billion humans to the rim of the galaxy. Send them what we can spare from the emergency reserves, Kate said, and tell them Dr. Webb's team might have found something that could help. Dr. Marcus Webb was their best hope right now. The tall, thin scientist had been studying the strange readings their sensors picked up in the abyss. While everyone else saw empty space, Marcus saw something else entirely. Admiral, called out Navigator Paul Torres from his station, Dr. Webb is requesting permission to take his team to investigate that structure we found yesterday. Kate nodded. The structure was the strangest thing they had discovered so far. It floated in the darkness between 2 dead stars, huge and black and completely silent. Their scanners couldn't figure out what it was made of, and it didn't respond to any radio signals. Tell him he can go, but I want Lieutenant Colonel Alex Turner's security team with him, Kate said, and they stay in constant contact. 3 hours later, Alex Turner was suited up and ready to board the strange structure. He was a tough, experienced soldier who had fought in the Skorath Wars. His team consisted of 6 other Marines, all volunteers who weren't afraid of the unknown. Remember, We don't touch anything until Dr. Webb gives the okay, Alex told his team through their helmet radios. This thing has been floating here for who knows how long. We don't want to accidentally wake it up. Their shuttle approached the structure slowly. Up close, it was even more impressive. The thing was at least 10 miles long and covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. Dr. Webb pressed his face against the shuttle window, excitement clear in his voice. The material composition is unlike anything in our databases. It's almost like it exists in more than 3 dimensions. They found an opening near what might have been the front of the structure. The shuttle docked carefully, and the team stepped inside wearing full environmental suits. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that stretched further than they could see. The air in here is breathable, reported Sergeant Lisa Park, checking her scanner. Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth normal. How is that possible? Alex asked. This place looks completely dead. They moved deeper into the structure, following Dr. Webb, who seemed drawn to something only he could sense. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at for too long. Some of the team members reported feeling dizzy. "Sir," called out Corporal Danny Kim, "you need to see this." They had found a large chamber filled with floating orbs of light. Each orb was about the size of a basketball and glowed with soft blue energy. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all hovering in perfect silence. Dr. Webb approached one of the orbs carefully. "Incredible," he whispered. "These aren't just lights, they're data storage devices. Each one contains massive amounts of information." "Information about what?" Alex asked. Before Dr. Webb could answer, one of the orbs drifted toward him. When it touched his gloved hand, the entire chamber lit up like a Christmas tree. The symbols on the walls began to glow and shift, forming new patterns. Dr. Webb's eyes went wide behind his helmet visor. "I can see it," he said in amazement. "I can see everything." Images flooded his mind. A vast civilization that had built wonders beyond imagination. Cities that floated in space without any visible support. Ships that could travel between galaxies in seconds. Beings of incredible intelligence who had mastered the very fabric of reality itself. They called themselves the architects, Dr. Webb said, his voice filled with wonder. They built all of this millions of years ago. They were exploring the universe, learning its secrets, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. "What happened to them?" Alex asked. The images in Dr. Webb's mind grew darker. Something was coming, something terrible from outside our universe. The architects tried to fight it, but their weapons were useless, so they did the only thing they could do. Which was, they left. Not just this galaxy, but this entire dimension. They moved to a higher plane of existence where the threat couldn't follow. Dr. Webb looked around the chamber with new understanding. This structure, all the technology we're finding out here, it's what they left behind. Tools and knowledge for whoever came after them. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "And you think this threat is still out there?" "The architects thought it would return someday," Dr. Webb said. "They left all this technology here as a warning, and a weapon for the next civilization that would have to face it." Back on the flagship, Admiral Kate Sullivan listened to Dr. Webb's report with growing excitement and fear. The implications were enormous. The abyss wasn't an empty wasteland where humans had been exiled to die. It was a treasure trove of advanced technology left behind by a civilization that made the Galactic Council look like children playing with toys. "How much of this technology can we actually use?" Kate asked. "I don't know yet," Dr. Webb admitted. "But I think we can learn. The architects designed some of these systems to be operated by other species. It's almost like they knew someone would eventually find this place." Engineer Sam Rodriguez had been quiet during the briefing, but now he spoke up. "Admiral, I'd like permission to try interfacing with one of the smaller devices we brought back." Kate hesitated. "Is it safe?" "Nothing about our situation is safe," Sam replied. "But if we can figure out how to use even a fraction of this technology, it could solve all our problems. Food, medicine, energy, transportation. The architects seem to have mastered everything." Kate made her decision. "Do it. But I want medical teams standing by, and if anything goes wrong, we shut it down immediately." 2 days later, Sam Rodriguez sat in a sealed laboratory, connected to an architect device through a neural interface helmet. The moment the connection activated, his mind exploded with new knowledge. He saw how to build engines that drew power from the empty space between atoms. He learned to create materials that were stronger than diamond but lighter than air. He discovered methods for manipulating gravity itself, bending space and time like clay. When the session ended, Sam was changed. His eyes held a new depth of understanding, and when he spoke, it was with the confidence of someone who had seen the fundamental laws of the universe laid bare. "Admiral," he said, a smile spreading across his face, "we're not exiles anymore. We're the inheritors of the greatest civilization that ever existed." Kate Sullivan looked out at the dark stars of the abyss and felt something she hadn't experienced in months: hope. The Galactic Council had thrown humanity into the darkness, expecting them to disappear forever. Instead, they had stumbled into the workshop of gods. 2 years had passed since the humans first entered the abyss. The dark region of space no longer felt like a prison. It had become their home, and they had changed it completely. Admiral Kate Sullivan walked through the corridors of New Haven Station, humanity's new capital. The walls were made from architect materials that glowed with soft light, providing warmth and energy without any visible power source. Children ran past her, laughing as they played games that would have been impossible under normal gravity. The station's artificial gravity systems could be adjusted in different areas, creating playgrounds where kids could bounce off walls and fly through the air. "Admiral," called out Dr. Nina Foster, the brilliant physicist who had helped crack the secrets of architect technology, "the new mining operation is ready for your inspection." Kate followed Nina to the observation deck. Through the transparent walls, she could see the mining ships at work. These weren't the crude metal vessels humanity had used before. The new ships looked like living things with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to flow like water. They moved through space without any visible engines, somehow pushing themselves along by manipulating the fabric of space itself. "Tony Mitchell's team has been incredible," Nina said, pointing to the mining supervisor who was coordinating the operation from the command center. "They're extracting dark matter at rates we never thought possible. Each ship can harvest enough exotic materials in one day to power a city for a year." Kate watched as one of the ships approached an asteroid. Instead of using drilling equipment, it simply extended what looked like a tentacle of pure energy. The asteroid began to glow and then dissolved into streams of glowing particles that flowed into the ship's storage compartments. "How are the weapons tests going?" Kate asked. "General Chris Hayes is very pleased with the results," Nina replied. "Our new particle cannons can punch holes through anything the Council races use for armor, and the dimensional shields make our ships nearly impossible to hit." Kate nodded, but she looked troubled. "I hope we never have to use them against the Council. Despite everything they did to us, I don't want to start a war." "I don't think we'll have to," Nina said. "Dr. Webb's research suggests we might have bigger problems to worry about." In another part of the station, Dr. Marcus Webb was meeting with representatives from the other species they had found in the abyss. When the humans first arrived, they thought they were alone in the dark regions of space. They were wrong. The first species they encountered were the HFY, proud warriors who looked like 7-foot-tall cats with 4 arms. Their leader, a scarred veteran named Thexara, sat across from Dr. Webb at a round table. "Your people adapt quickly," Thexara said, his voice a deep rumble. "When we first met you, you were refugees fleeing from Council space. Now you build ships that could challenge the ancient powers." Next to the HFY sat a representative of the Synthesis, a group of beings who had replaced most of their original bodies with mechanical parts. The one called Unit 47 spoke in a voice that sounded like music played through a computer. "The Synthesis offers our computational abilities to the Alliance," Unit 47 said. "Your biological creativity combined with our processing power could unlock even more architect secrets." The third group was the most mysterious. The Resonants were beings made of pure energy who could only communicate through special devices that translated their thoughts into words. Their representative appeared as a swirling cloud of blue light above a crystal transmitter. The residents have watched the abyss for thousands of years. The translator device spoke for them. We have seen the council races fear to explore these regions, but humans are different. You see opportunity where others see only danger. Doctor, Webb leaned forward. What can you tell us about the threat the architects were running from? The energy being pulsed brighter. It sleeps still, but it stirs. The devourers exist between dimensions, consuming entire realities. They turn order into chaos, life into death, hope into despair. Thexara's 4 hands clenched into fists. When? Will they return? Soon, the resonance replied. The barriers between dimensions grow thin. The architect's warnings speak of signs that are beginning to appear. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of the abyss, Captain Jake Morrison commanded a patrol fleet of the new human ships. He had been promoted to Abyss Fleet Commander, leading humanity's exploration of the dark regions. His ship, the Defiance, was a masterpiece of combined human and architect technology. Commander, reported his communications officer, Sarah Kim, we're picking up council ships on long-range sensors. They're still far away, but they're definitely heading in our direction. Jake frowned. The council had declared the abyss off-limits to their own ships, claiming it was too dangerous. What were they doing out here? How many ships, he asked. Just 3, Sarah replied. Light cruisers, probably a reconnaissance mission. Jake made his decision. Take us to intercept them, but stay far enough away that they can't get detailed scans of our technology. An hour later, the Defiance approached the council ships. Jake recognized the lead vessel. It belonged to Elder Zix Thara, the crystal being who had pronounced humanity's banishment 2 years ago. This is Elder Zix Thara, of the Galactic Council, came a transmission. We are conducting a routine survey of the Galactic Rim. Please identify yourself. Jake smiled. Time to give the council a little surprise. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Abyss Defense Fleet. Elder Zix Thara, it's been a while. There was a long pause. Then, impossible. Human ships cannot survive this far from civilized space. The radiation levels alone should have killed you all by now. We've learned to adapt, Jake replied. The Abyss has been very educational. He gave a signal to his crew. The Defiance suddenly seemed to fade from view, becoming translucent like a ghost. The council ship's sensors began going crazy as they tried to track something that was only partially there. What are you doing? Zixathara's voice sounded panicked. How are you manipulating our sensors? We're not manipulating anything, Jake said calmly. We're just existing in more than 3 dimensions at once. It's a useful trick we learned from some old friends. The Defiance reappeared, but now it was behind the council ships instead of in front of them. The council vessels spun around, trying to figure out how a ship had moved instantly from one position to another. This is impossible, Zixthara said, her crystal voice cracking with fear. No species has technology this advanced. Not even the oldest council races. You're right, Jake agreed. No council race has technology like this, but then again, we're not a council race anymore, are we? You made sure of that. The 3 council ships began backing away slowly. Jake let them go. He had made his point. Elder Zix Thara, he said over the radio, when you get back to council space, you might want to let the other members know something. The humans you banished to the abyss aren't the same humans who left. We've grown up out here in the dark, and we've made some very interesting friends. The council ships turned and fled toward civilized space as fast as their engines could carry them. Jake Morrison sat back in his command chair and smiled. The next council meeting was going to be very interesting indeed. Back on New Haven Station, Admiral Kate Sullivan received Jake's report with mixed feelings. Part of her was proud of how far humanity had come, but another part worried about what would happen when the council realized that their biggest mistake hadn't been banishing humanity to the abyss. Their biggest mistake had been giving them access to it. The emergency alert came at 3 in the morning, ship time. Admiral Kate Sullivan rushed to the command center of New Haven Station, still putting on her uniform. The main screen showed a sight that made her blood run cold. 3 entire star systems at the edge of council space had simply vanished. Where bright suns and populated planets had existed just hours before, there was now nothing but empty darkness. How many people lived in those systems? Kate asked quietly. Communications Officer Sarah Kim checked her reports with shaking hands. Approximately 2 billion beings across 12 different worlds, Admiral. All Council member species. Dr. Marcus Webb stood beside the command console, his face pale. It's starting. The threat the architects warned us about, the Devourers, have returned. Before Kate could respond, another alert sounded. An incoming transmission from Council space, marked with the highest priority codes. Put it through, Kate ordered. The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at Senator Helen Brooks, the human woman who had opposed their banishment 2 years ago. She looked older now, with gray streaks in her hair and deep lines around her eyes. Admiral Sullivan, Helen said, her voice tight with desperation. Thank God you're alive. We need your help. Something terrible is happening. Kate crossed her arms. I can see that, Senator. 3 systems destroyed in a matter of hours. What exactly do the Council's scientists think they're dealing with? We don't know, Helen admitted. Our best minds are completely baffled. The things attacking us, they don't follow any known laws of physics. Our weapons pass right through them. Our shields might as well be made of paper. And now you want our help? Kate asked. 2 years ago, the Council called us too dangerous for civilized space. They threw us out like garbage. Helen's face crumpled. I know, and I'm sorry. I fought against the banishment decision, but I was outvoted. Kate, please, people are dying. Entire civilizations are being wiped out. Whatever differences we had, surely they don't matter now. Kate looked around at her staff. Dr. Webb nodded slightly. They had been preparing for this moment, but it still felt surreal. What exactly is the Council offering? Kate asked. Full reinstatement, Helen said quickly. Complete citizenship rights for all humans. Seats on the High Council. Leadership positions in the fleet. Whatever you want, just please help us. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Kate knew that every decision she made now would affect the future of humanity, and possibly the entire galaxy. Admiral, Dr. Webb said softly, we need to show you something. They moved to the research section, where Dr. Webb's team had been studying architect records about the Devourers for months. The main screen showed images that hurt to look at directly. Writhing masses of darkness that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. The Devourers aren't from our universe, Dr. Webb explained. They come from a place where entropy rules everything. They feed on order, on structure, on life itself. Every time someone fires an energy weapon at them, they get stronger. Every organized attack just gives them more power to consume. Dr. Lisa Carter, now head of the Abyss Research Center, joined the briefing. With her was Rob Palmer, their best tactical analyst. We've been working with the resonance and the synthesis to understand how the architects originally fought these things, Lisa said. The architects lost every conventional battle, Rob added. Their massive fleets, their planet-killing weapons, their perfect military strategies, none of it worked. The more organized and powerful their attacks were, the stronger the Devourers became. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. So how do you fight something that gets stronger every time you attack it? You don't fight it, Dr. Webb said. You confuse it. The Devourers feed on order and predictability. But chaos, randomness, complete unpredictability, that hurts them. It's like feeding poison to something that expects a nice, orderly meal. Which explains why the architects left these tools for us, Lisa continued. They knew that eventually, some species would arise that was chaotic enough, unpredictable enough, to have a chance against the Devourers. Rob pulled up tactical displays, showing human military history. Look at our greatest victories. The Battle of New Troy, where we defeated the Skorath pirates. The Kepler defense, where we held off 3 different alien fleets. Every time we won because we did things no sane military commander would try. Kate understood. We don't follow the rules. We make them up as we go along. Exactly, Dr. Webb said. The Council races have been civilized for millions of years. They think in terms of proper procedures, careful planning, and logical strategies. But humans? We're still young enough to be completely insane when we need to be. The alarm sounded again. Another star system had vanished, this time much closer to the core council worlds. Time was running out. "Admiral," Sarah Kim called out, "we're receiving reports from our scout ships. The Devourers are moving faster now. They're consuming entire worlds in minutes instead of hours." Kate made her decision. "Send a message to all human ships. Tell Commander Morrison to gather the fleet and contact our allies, the Kethvar, the Synthesis, and the Resonance. It's time to see if this alliance we've built can save the galaxy." Indo paused, then added, "Also send a reply to Senator Brooks. Tell her we'll help, but we're doing this our way. No council oversight, no committee decisions, no proper procedures. If they want our help, they have to trust us completely." Within hours, the largest fleet in human history was assembling in the abyss. Ships that looked like living creatures swam through space alongside vessels that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. The Kethvar brought their massive warrior ships, covered in weapons that fired bolts of pure rage. The Synthesis contributed vessels that existed partially in cyberspace, able to attack enemies through their own computer systems. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, now called the Chaos Engine. Around him, his crew prepared for a battle unlike any in galactic history. "Commander," reported his weapons officer, "all ships are reporting ready. We have over 3,000 vessels from 4 different species, and none of them are using the same type of technology." Jake smiled grimly. "Perfect. The more confused our own sensors are, the more confused the Devourers will be." Dr. Webb's voice came over the communication system from New Haven Station. "Jake, remember what we discussed. Don't try to destroy them. Don't try to outfight them. Just be as unpredictable as possible." "Don't worry, Doc," Jake replied. "Unpredictable is what humans do best." As the fleet moved toward the first Devourer incursion, Kate Sullivan watched from the command center. She thought about the Council's offer of reinstatement, of returning to civilized space as honored citizens. But looking at the stars of the abyss, at the incredible technology they had mastered and the allies they had found, she realized something important. They didn't need the Council's approval anymore. They never had. The humans had been banished to the darkness, and they had made it their home. Now it was time to show the galaxy what Masters of Chaos could accomplish when the universe needed saving. The battle began in the Rigel system, where the Devourers had just finished consuming the 4th Council world. Commander Jake Morrison watched through his ship's sensors as the enemy revealed itself for the first time. The Devourers looked like living nightmares. They were massive, dark shapes that seemed to eat light itself. Parts of them existed in normal space, while other parts flickered in and out of reality. When they moved, they left trails of absolute nothingness behind them. "All ships, this is Morrison," Jake said into his communicator. "Remember the plan. No organized formations, no coordinated attacks, no predictable patterns. Every ship does whatever seems like the worst possible idea." Captain Emma Stone, commanding the human ship Wildcard, was the first to attack. Instead of firing at the largest Devourer, she aimed her weapons at empty space and pulled the trigger. The energy beams curved through dimensions and hit the creature from an impossible angle. The Devourer recoiled, confused by an attack that shouldn't have worked. "That actually hurt it," Emma reported, excitement in her voice. The energy signature dropped by 12%. The Kethvar ships joined the battle next, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of charging forward like proper warriors, they began flying backward while shooting in random directions. Their leader, Thexara, was laughing over the radio, as his ship spun in circles while firing every weapon at once. "This is the most dishonorably wonderful battle of my life," he roared. The Synthesis ships did something even stranger. They began attacking each other, but every missed shot somehow hit a Devourer instead. Unit 47 had reprogrammed their targeting computers to aim for where the enemies weren't, which somehow made them hit where the enemies were. The Resonance beings created pure chaos by singing songs that made no musical sense. The sounds they produced violated every known law of harmony, creating energy waves that made the Devourers writhe in apparent pain. But the Council fleets, trying to help, kept making things worse. Every time they fired their weapons in proper formation, the Devourers grew stronger. Every organized attack fed more power to the enemy. "Council ships, fall back," Jake ordered. "You're making them stronger." Elder Zix Thara's voice came over the radio, crystal clear with panic. "This is impossible. How can random attacks be more effective than coordinated strategy?" "Because chaos hurts them more than order helps us," Jake replied, just as his ship suddenly teleported 300 miles to the left for no reason at all. The movement was so unexpected that a devourer trying to grab his ship missed completely and grabbed empty space instead. Dr. Marcus Webb, monitoring the battle from New Haven Station, watched the readings with growing excitement and fear. "Admiral Sullivan, the strategy is working, but not fast enough. We're hurting them, but they're still consuming matter faster than we can confuse them." Kate Sullivan studied the tactical display. More star systems were going dark even as the battle raged. The Devourers were fighting in dozens of places at once, and humanity didn't have enough ships to be everywhere. "We need something bigger," Kate said. "Something so chaotic that it breaks all the rules at once." Dr. Webb looked at her with understanding. "The Morrison Protocol. They had developed the idea months ago, but nobody had wanted to try it. It was too dangerous, too unpredictable, and too likely to kill everyone involved." "Kate," Dr. Webb said quietly, "if we're wrong about this, Jake Morrison dies, and probably everyone with him. And if we're right? If we're right, he becomes something that can hurt the Devourers badly enough to save the galaxy." Kate closed her eyes, then opened them with new determination. "Send him the authorization codes." In the middle of the battle, Jake Morrison received the message he had hoped he would never get. The Morrison Protocol was a one-way transformation that would turn him into a living weapon against the Devourers. The architect technology would merge with his body and mind, making him part human, part ancient alien tech, and part pure chaos. "All ships, this is Morrison," he said calmly. "Continue the attack pattern. Emma, you have command of the fleet." "Jake." "No!" Emma Stone's voice cracked with emotion. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Jake replied. "And you know it." He walked to the special chamber his engineers had built in the heart of his ship. The walls were covered with architect technology that hummed with power. At the center was a chair that looked more like a throne made of living metal. Jake sat down and activated the transformation sequence. Pain hit him like a lightning bolt, but it was followed by something incredible. He could suddenly see the Devourers clearly, not just with his eyes, but with senses he had never possessed before. He could feel their hunger, their confusion at the chaotic attacks, and most importantly, their fear. The Devourers were afraid of randomness because they could not predict it, could not feed on it, could not understand it. Jake Morrison stood up from the chair, but he was no longer entirely human. His body flickered between dimensions like the Devourers themselves, but where they brought order and death, he brought chaos and life. He stepped out of his ship directly into space, no longer needing a protective suit. The vacuum couldn't hurt him because he existed in too many dimensions for simple physics to apply. The largest devourer, a creature the size of a moon, turned toward him. It tried to consume him the way it consumed everything else, but Jake Morrison was no longer something that could be easily consumed. Instead, he reached out with power he barely understood and touched the creature's essence. Where his chaos met its order, reality itself began to change. The devourer started to shake, then to break apart, then to feed on itself in confusion. "That's right," Jake said, his voice now carrying across space without radio waves. "You don't know what to do with pure randomness, do you?" He spread his arms wide, and chaotic energy flowed out from him like a tide. Every devourer it touched began to malfunction, their perfect order disrupted by waves of beautiful, destructive unpredictability. The battle turned in minutes. Devourers that had been unstoppable began consuming each other by mistake. Their dimensional forms started to collapse as they tried to process energy that followed no rules they understood. When the last devourer finally destroyed itself in confusion, the galaxy fell silent. Jake Morrison floated in space, changed forever, but still recognizably human in the ways that mattered. His fleet surrounded him, and Emma Stone's voice came over the radio. Jake, are you still you? He smiled, and somehow that smile was visible across space. I'm still me, Emma. Just a little more random than before. 3 days later, a formal delegation from the Galactic Council arrived at New Haven Station. Elder Zixithera herself led the group, offering humanity full membership in the Council, with leadership positions and unlimited resources. Admiral Kate Sullivan listened to the offer politely, then gave her answer. Thank you, Elder Zixithera, but we decline. The crystal being's glow flickered with confusion. But why? You saved us all. You deserve a place of honor in civilized space. Kate looked out at the stars of the abyss, where human ships moved like schools of fish between dimensions, where alien allies traded jokes and technology, where children played in gravity fields that defied physics. You banished us to the darkness because you thought we were too dangerous for your civilized galaxy, she said. Well, you were right. We are dangerous. But that's exactly why the galaxy needs us out here. She turned back to the council delegation. There are other threats out there, Elder. Other things that civilized minds can't handle. You keep your safe, predictable space. We'll stay out here in the chaos, standing guard against the things that go bump in the night. Jake Morrison, forever changed but still human at heart, stood beside her. Besides, he added with a grin, we like it out here. The darkness isn't scary when you've learned to make it dance. The council ships left, carrying reports that would puzzle galactic historians for centuries. Humanity had been offered everything they once wanted, and they had turned it down to remain in exile. But it wasn't exile anymore. It was home. In the abyss where chaos reigned and impossible things happened every day, humanity had found their true calling. They were the children of chaos, guardians of the dark, protectors of a galaxy that would never fully understand them, and they wouldn't have it any other way. The stars glittered against the endless black as the exploration vessel Pathfinder slowed its approach to the Kepler 438 system. On the bridge, Captain Lisa Warren watched the main view screen with careful eyes. After 3 months of travel following a mysterious signal, they were finally nearing its source. All systems nominal, Captain, reported Lieutenant Peter Russell from his station. We're picking up artificial structures on the 4th planet. Lisa nodded, brushing a strand of brown hair from her face. Life signs? Confirmed. And they're advanced, extensive orbital installations, evidence of large-scale planetary engineering. Definitely a spacefaring civilization. The bridge fell silent. In the 2 centuries since humans had fled Earth and established colonies across distant stars, they had found plenty of planets with simple life forms, but never another intelligent species. Until now. Send the first contact package on all frequencies, Lisa ordered. Her heart beat faster, but her voice remained steady. This was why she had joined the Exploration Corps, to make history. Within hours, they received a response, a transmission containing language patterns and mathematical sequences designed for translation. The ship's AI quickly decoded enough for basic communication. They call themselves the Zalthori, explained Communications Officer Doug Miller. They're inviting us to approach their orbital station. As the Pathfinder drew closer to the massive ring-shaped structure orbiting the 4th planet, Lisa called her senior staff to the briefing room. Chief Engineer Alan Martinez, Science Officer Samantha Boyd, Security Chief Nicole Garcia, and Commander John Howard gathered around the table. First contact protocols, Lisa reminded them. We represent all of humanity here. Let's make sure we don't start an interstellar incident. The shuttle journey to the Zalthori station was tense, but uneventful. Lisa led a small team consisting of Peter, Nicole, and Samantha. The docking bay they entered was enormous, with sleek vessels of unusual design lined along its walls. The air had a faint metallic smell, but was breathable without assistance. 3 tall figures waited for them. The Zalthori stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue-green skin and 4 arms. Their faces featured large, multifaceted eyes that reminded Lisa of insect eyes, though their bodies were otherwise humanoid. "Welcome to Zalthor Prime Station," said the central figure in slightly accented English, their voice coming through. The translation device. I am Ambassador Zivtal. We are most curious about your species. We believed ourselves to be the only intelligent life in this sector of space. Lisa stepped forward. I'm Captain Lisa Warren of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder. We represent the United Human Colonies. The exchange of pleasantries continued as they were led through corridors lined with a material that seemed to shift colors slightly as they passed. The Zalthori technology was elegant and advanced, with floating holographic displays and silent doors that dissolved rather than opened. In a large meeting chamber, they were offered seats at a round table. The gravity was slightly lighter than what they were used to, making movement easier despite the tension they all felt. We have been a spacefaring species for over 500 of your Earth years, Zivtal explained. We have explored many systems near our home, including, we believe, your origin world. Lisa exchanged surprised glances with her team. You've been to Earth? If that is the third planet of the yellow star system approximately 30 light years, from here then yes. We discovered it nearly 200 years ago. An interesting world with many ruins but no sentient life. We assumed the civilization there had died out long before we arrived. Lisa felt a pang in her chest. Earth, abandoned due to ecological collapse, resource depletion, and rising temperatures. The Exodus had been humanity's last hope, a desperate flight to colony worlds that could still support human life. Most historical records had been lost or corrupted during those chaotic times. That was our homeworld, she said quietly. We were forced to leave approximately 250 years ago. The Zalthori representatives made a gesture that their translation devices interpreted as surprise. Fascinating. So the ruins we studied were built by your species? We have extensive records of our archaeological surveys. A large holographic display activated in the center of the table. Lisa gasped as images appeared. The unmistakable shape of the Statue of Liberty, partially submerged in water, her torch hand barely visible above the waves. The rusted remnants of the Eiffel Tower, the crumbling concrete husks of what had once been Chicago's proud skyscrapers. Our archaeological teams found these ancient relics quite primitive but interesting from a historical perspective, another Zalthori said. This one introduced itself as Keel Mora, chief archaeologist. The materials used were remarkably durable to have survived so long in such harsh conditions. Peter leaned forward, clearly trying to hide his offense at hearing humanity's greatest achievements dismissed as primitive relics. Those structures were built centuries before we achieved spaceflight, he explained diplomatically. By the time we left Earth, our technology had advanced considerably. Keel Mora made a gesture that seemed dismissive. Yet you abandoned your world. Our preliminary studies showed catastrophic environmental degradation. A technological civilization that destroys its own habitat demonstrates fundamental flaws in its development. Nicole tensed beside Lisa, who placed a warning hand on her security chief's arm. We made mistakes, Lisa acknowledged. All species do, I imagine, but we survived. We adapted. We found new homes among the stars. Ambassador Zivtal intervened, smoothly. Indeed. And now our species meet as equals. We have much to learn from each other. The conversation continued for hours, with both sides carefully sharing limited information about their histories, technologies, and cultures. The Zalthori seemed particularly interested in human colony worlds, while Lisa's team was fascinated by Zalthori space travel methods. As the initial meeting concluded, Zivtal made an unexpected offer. Captain Warren, would your team be interested in viewing our complete surveys of your former homeworld? We have extensive records that might be of cultural significance to your people. Lisa couldn't hide her eagerness. Yes, we would appreciate that very much. And perhaps, the ambassador continued, a joint expedition? Our scientists have more experience with the current conditions on Earth, while your people have historical knowledge that could provide context for our findings. Later, back aboard the Pathfinder, Lisa's team reviewed the preliminary data shared by the Zalthori. They've been treating Earth like an archaeological curiosity, Samantha said, her voice tight with emotion as she swiped through images of familiar landmarks now decayed and alien. Alan, who had joined them after their return, studied the technical readings. Wait a minute, he said suddenly. This signal pattern the Zalthori detected but couldn't identify. I recognize it. It's an old Earth Defense Network protocol. That's impossible, John replied. Those systems would have failed centuries ago, without maintenance. Alan shook his head. Something on Earth is still active, and it's what led us here. It's like Earth was calling us home. The next morning's cycle aboard the Pathfinder, Captain Lisa Warren called an emergency meeting with her senior staff. The discovery that Earth's defense systems might still be operational after centuries of abandonment had kept her awake all night. Alan, explain what you found, Lisa said, gesturing to her chief engineer. Alan Martinez stood up and activated the holographic display in the center of the conference table. A series of waveform patterns appeared, pulsing in regular intervals. This is the signal that brought us to this system, he explained, pointing to the top pattern. And this is a standard Earth Defense Network automated alert pattern from before the Exodus. He pointed to a nearly identical pattern below it. How is that possible? Commander John Howard asked, leaning forward. Those systems should have failed within decades without maintenance. Alan shrugged. That's the million-credit question. The power requirements alone would be enormous. No battery or conventional generator could last that long. Science Officer Samantha Boyd cleared her throat. I've been analyzing the data the Zalthori shared about Earth. There's something they missed, or didn't understand. Look at these radiation readings near what used to be the Nevada desert. She pulled up another image showing heat and energy signatures from Earth's surface. A bright spot pulsed steadily in what had once been the southwestern United States. That's not natural decay, Nicole Garcia said, her security training immediately identifying the pattern. That's a functioning power source. Exactly, Samantha replied. And based on these readings, it's unlike anything the Zalthori use. They mistook it for background radiation because it doesn't match their energy signatures. Lisa felt a flutter of excitement. So there's active technology on Earth that's been running for over 2 centuries. How? Remember Project Sustain? Alan asked quietly. The room fell silent. Project Sustain had been one of humanity's last desperate efforts before the Exodus, an experimental energy technology that theoretically could power systems for centuries with minimal degradation. Most believed it had failed like so many other last-minute attempts to save Earth. You think they succeeded? Lisa asked. Alan nodded slowly. And maybe they left something behind, something important enough to power for centuries, waiting for humans to return. The conversation was interrupted when Communications Officer Doug Miller's voice came over the intercom. Captain, Ambassador Zivtal is requesting to come aboard with their scientific delegation. Lisa exchanged glances with her team. Tell them we'll welcome them in 30 minutes. And Doug, not a word about what we've discovered. When the Zalthori delegation arrived, Lisa was struck again by their elegant appearance. Ambassador Zivtal wore what seemed to be ceremonial attire, with shimmering material draped across their forearms. Behind them stood Keel Mora and 4 other Zalthori scientists. Thank you for hosting us, Captain Warren, Zivtal said with a gesture their translation devices interpreted as respect. Our scientists are eager to discuss a joint expedition to your former homeworld. We're honored by your interest, Lisa replied diplomatically. Please join us in our conference room. As they walked through the corridors of the Pathfinder, Lisa noticed the Zalthori studying the human technology with what seemed like mild curiosity, rather than genuine interest. She remembered how Keel Mora had dismissed Earth structures as primitive relics and felt a twinge of annoyance. Once seated in the conference room, Keel Mora took the lead. We have been studying the ruins on your Earth for decades, they explained, projecting images of excavation sites in what had once been major cities. The construction techniques were quite interesting for a pre-spacefaring civilization. Peter Russell, sitting beside Lisa, tensed visibly. Earth was abandoned in 2213. We had been a spacefaring civilization for over a century by then. Keel Mora made a dismissive gesture. Perhaps by your definition, our archaeological evidence suggests your technology was quite basic. The materials degrade quickly, Nothing like our beryllium alloys that can withstand millennia of exposure. Lisa intervened before Peter could respond. Different technological paths often lead to different priorities in development. We'd be very interested in seeing more of your findings. The Zalthori chief scientist activated a holographic display showing what had once been the remains of Washington, D.C. We've focused our most recent studies on this region. There are curious energy readings we cannot fully explain. Samantha and Alan exchanged quick glances, but remained silent. We've also begun preliminary salvage operations, another Zalthori scientist added casually. The metals in your former ocean vessels contain useful trace elements. Salvage operations? Lisa repeated, unable to hide her surprise. Ambassador Zivtal made a soothing gesture. Standard procedure for abandoned worlds, according to Galactic conventions. After a certain period of abandonment, historic sites may be documented and then resources reclaimed. Lisa felt a cold anger rising but kept her voice level. Earth is not simply an abandoned world. It is the birthplace of our species. Of course, Zivtal replied smoothly. Which is why we're proposing this joint expedition. Your cultural insights would be valuable in determining which sites should be preserved for their historical significance before reclamation begins. After the meeting, when the Zalthori had returned to their vessel, Lisa's crew gathered again. They're treating Earth like a junkyard, Nicole said, her voice tight with anger. Our home. A home we abandoned, John reminded her gently. From their perspective, they're following standard procedures. The salvage isn't the only issue, Samantha interjected. Did you notice how they mentioned energy readings they couldn't explain? They're detecting the same power source we identified, but they don't understand what they're seeing. Alan nodded. And they're getting close to it. If Project Sustain really succeeded, and if it's tied to the defense network that sent the signal, then we need to get to Earth before they do, Lisa finished his thought. Whatever is still active down there was meant for us, not for alien salvage teams. Later that night, as the Pathfinder prepared for the journey to Earth, Lisa stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the distant speck that was her species' original home. After centuries, humans were returning to Earth, not as conquering heroes, but as visitors to an archaeological site owned by others. What did we leave behind? She whispered to herself. And will it still recognize us when we return? On the Zalthori vessel, Keelmora was reviewing the energy readings again with growing frustration. These patterns defy explanation based on their primitive technology, they told Ambassador Zivtal. Either our assessments of human technological development were flawed or, the ambassador prompted, or they left something on their world that we do not understand, Keelmora admitted reluctantly. Something that has remained active all these centuries. Zivtal's multifaceted eyes gleamed with interest. Perhaps these humans are more intriguing than we initially believed. Ensure our salvage teams exercise caution and accelerate our schedule. I want our expedition to reach Earth before the humans have time to fully prepare. The journey to Earth took 3 days. Captain Lisa Warren spent most of that time reviewing old Earth history files, trying to piece together what might have happened during the final days before the Exodus. The records were fragmented and incomplete, but she found several references to Project Sustain and its ambitious goals. As the Pathfinder entered Earth's orbit, followed closely by the Zalthori science vessel Vordax, the bridge crew fell silent. Through the view screen, they could see their ancestral home, blue oceans now covering much more of the surface than in historical images, with unfamiliar coastlines where great cities had once stood. Scanning the surface, Samantha reported from her science station. Atmosphere is actually improving. Oxygen levels are higher than our historical records indicate for the Exodus period. Plant life has reclaimed most urban areas. Any sign of that power source? Lisa asked. Alan nodded. Yes, and there's more. As we entered orbit, I detected multiple power signatures activating across the planet's surface. Whatever was dormant is waking up, Captain. The Zalthori are hailing us, Lieutenant Peter Russell announced. Lisa straightened her uniform. On screen, Ambassador Zivtal appeared with Keel Mora standing behind them. Captain Warren, we notice unusual energy fluctuations across the planet since your arrival. Can you explain this? We're detecting them too, Lisa replied truthfully. We're as curious as you are about their source. Perhaps, Zivtal said, their tone slightly suspicious. We propose a joint landing party to investigate the strongest signal in what your maps labeled as the North American continent. Lisa agreed, though she suspected the Zalthori would have proceeded with or without her consent. Within hours, 2 shuttles descended through Earth's atmosphere, 1 human, 1 Zalthori. The landing site was a vast plain that had once been part of Colorado. Mountains rose in the distance, their slopes covered with thick forests that had reclaimed the land. The air was clean and cool, with a sweetness that the recycled air of spaceships could never match. Lisa stepped onto Earth's soil, the first human to do so in centuries. Emotion threatened to overwhelm her, but she maintained her composure as Nicole, Alan, and Samantha exited the shuttle behind her. The Zalthori landing party approached, led by Keel Mora. The alien scientist carried complex scanning equipment, which immediately began making high-pitched sounds. The signal is stronger here, Keel Mora announced. Approximately 2 kilometers in that direction. They pointed toward what appeared to be an ordinary hillside covered in tall grass and small trees. As the combined party approached the hill, Alan's scanner beeped urgently. Captain, I'm detecting a structure beneath the surface, and something else. He looked up with wide eyes. It's scanning us. Before Lisa could respond, a section of the hillside seemed to shimmer and then fade away, revealing a metal doorway set into the rock. Ancient letters were still visible above it. Atlas Facility, authorized personnel only. Remarkable camouflage. Technology, Keel Mora commented, approaching the door with their scanning device. Yet another contradiction to our assessment of your technological level. When the Zalthori scientist reached out to touch the control panel beside the door, a red light flashed and a synthesized voice spoke in perfect English. Non-human DNA detected. Access denied. Keel Mora stepped back in surprise. What is this? Lisa approached the panel cautiously. The voice spoke again. Human DNA detected. Processing genetic markers. Welcome, authorized personnel. Please proceed to decontamination. The door slid open silently, revealing a brightly lit corridor that showed no signs of age or decay. It recognizes you, Zivtal observed with obvious interest. This facility was programmed to await your return. Lisa nodded. It appears so. I suggest we proceed carefully. The human team entered first, followed by the Zalthori, who were clearly unhappy about the door's reaction to them. The corridor led to a large chamber where cleaning drones quickly moved over them, removing external contaminants. This technology is still functioning perfectly after centuries, Alan whispered in awe. Beyond the decontamination chamber lay a vast room filled with servers and holographic displays. As they entered, the systems activated automatically, filling the air with glowing data displays and projected images. A holographic figure appeared before them, a woman in what appeared to be a lab coat. Welcome to Atlas, the automated temporal logistics and archival system. I detect 4 authorized human personnel and 4 unauthorized alien entities. Please confirm security protocol. Lisa stepped forward. I am Captain Lisa Warren of the United Human Colonies. These are my officers, and these are representatives of the Zalthori, a species we have recently encountered. The hologram processed this information. Captain Warren, your genetic markers indicate lineage compatibility with original Atlas authorization protocols. You are granted Level 1 access. Your human companions are granted Level 2 access. The alien entities are restricted to observation only. Keel Mora made a sound of protest, but Zivtal gestured for them to remain silent. What is Atlas? Lisa asked. Atlas was created as humanity's time capsule, the hologram explained. When the decision was made to temporarily abandon Earth, key scientific and cultural knowledge was preserved here and in similar facilities around the planet. I have maintained these archives for 224 years, 3 months and 17 days, awaiting the return of authorized personnel. Alan approached one of the consoles that lit up at his touch. This is incredible. The power source. It must be the Sustain technology. The hologram nodded. Correct. Project Sustain achieved breakthrough zero-point energy generation 3 months before the evacuation order. This facility and 5 others around the planet are powered by Sustain generators with an estimated functional lifespan of 500 years. Samantha had moved to another console, her eyes widening as she scrolled through data. Captain, this database contains the entirety of human scientific knowledge up to the Exodus. And beyond, there are research simulations that have been running this entire time. Keelmora pushed forward, their earlier dismissive attitude completely gone. Impossible. Your civilization was not capable of this level of technology. Our archaeological assessments were based on what we left behind, Lisa interrupted. The ruins you found were already centuries old when we abandoned Earth. By the time of the Exodus, we had developed technologies far beyond what you've seen. The hologram turned to the Zalthori. The alien entities are attempting to access restricted data terminals. This is not permitted. Lisa looked over to see one of the Zalthori scientists touching a console, which immediately went dark. Ambassador, Lisa said firmly, please ask your people to respect the facility's protocols. Zivtal made a gesture of compliance, but their multifaceted eyes gleamed with unmistakable interest as they looked around the vast archive room. Captain Warren, I believe we need to reconsider our agreement regarding your homeworld. Clearly, there is much more here than simple archaeological relics. Clearly, Lisa agreed, watching as more displays activated around them, revealing glimpses of technology that even the colony worlds had yet to rediscover. Earth had not just been abandoned, it had been preserved along with the greatest achievements of human innovation, and now, after centuries of waiting, it was awakening. In the days that followed the discovery of the Atlas facility, tensions between the human crew and the Zalthori delegation grew steadily. Captain Lisa Warren spent hours each day accessing the vast database, learning about the final years before the Exodus. What she discovered changed everything she thought she knew about Earth's abandonment. It wasn't just an evacuation, she explained to her senior staff in a private meeting aboard the Pathfinder. It was a strategic retreat. Earth wasn't dying, it was being given time to heal. What do you mean? John Howard asked, his brow furrowed in confusion. Lisa activated a holographic display showing data retrieved from Atlas. Project Sustain wasn't just about creating long-lasting power sources. It was part of a larger plan called the Restoration Initiative. When our ancestors realized how badly Earth had been damaged, they made a choice. Instead of continuing to fight a losing battle, they would leave and allow the planet's natural systems to recover. But the ecological collapse was catastrophic, Samantha objected. The history records are clear about that. The public records are clear, Lisa corrected. But according to Atlas, the situation was more complex. Yes, there was serious damage, but it wasn't irreversible. Our ancestors calculated that without human interference and with some help from specially engineered microorganisms they released before leaving, Earth could heal itself within a few centuries. Alan leaned forward. So the Exodus was always meant to be temporary? A few centuries away while Earth recovered? Exactly. And the Atlas facilities were created to preserve our knowledge and monitor the recovery process. Lisa paused, looking at each of them. But there's more. The facilities were also designed to activate defensive systems if non-human visitors arrived. Nicole's eyes widened. The signal that brought us here. Yes. When the Zalthori began their salvage operations, they triggered an alert. Atlas recognized that they weren't human and sent out a signal specifically designed to be detected by human ships. Peter shook his head in amazement. Our ancestors planned all this centuries ago. While the colony world struggled just to survive, Earth was quietly healing, waiting for us to return. Their conversation was interrupted by Doug's voice over the intercom. Captain, the Zalthori ambassador is requesting an urgent meeting. They've received new vessels from their homeworld. Lisa exchanged concerned glances with her officers. New vessels? Tell them I'll meet with them in 1 hour. Nicole pulled up the sensor readings on her security console. 3 Zalthori ships have entered Earth orbit, Captain. They appear to be military vessels, not scientific. They're making a show of force, Lisa muttered. They want Earth's technology. When Lisa met with Ambassador Zivtal in the Pathfinder's conference room, the Zalthori's previously friendly demeanor had been replaced with cool formality. Captain Warren, Zivtal began without preamble, my government has reviewed our findings about your former homeworld. The technology preserved in the Atlas facility and potentially in other similar installations represents significant scientific value. It represents humanity's legacy, Lisa replied firmly. Zivtal made a dismissive gesture. A legacy abandoned for centuries, under galactic salvage conventions, which we shared with you previously. Any civilization that abandons a world for more than 100 cycles forfeits exclusive rights to its resources. Earth was never abandoned, Lisa countered. It was placed in a recovery period with automated systems maintaining watch. The Atlas facilities prove this was always intended as a temporary absence. A convenient claim, Keelmora interjected, but one that contradicts all historical evidence available before our discovery. Your colony worlds have no records of this planned return, you now assert. Lisa kept her voice level despite her rising anger. Because the plan was known only to those who created the Atlas facilities. It was deemed necessary to allow the colonies to develop independently, without waiting for Earth to be habitable again. Regardless, Zivtal continued, the Zalthori Confederation has an interest in studying the technology preserved here. We propose a joint research agreement. Our scientists will work with your team to access and understand the Atlas database. Lisa recognized the implied threat behind the proposal. With 3 Zalthori warships in orbit, it wasn't really a request. I'll need to consult with my government, she replied, buying time. The nearest human colony world is New Terra. I've already sent a message informing them of our discoveries. Zivtal's multifaceted eyes narrowed slightly. Of course. We will await their response. In the meantime, our scientific teams will continue their survey of other potential facilities. After the Zalthori delegation departed, Nicole approached, Lisa with a worried expression. Captain, they're spreading out across the planet. I've detected shuttle launches to multiple continents. They're looking for the other Atlas facilities, Lisa realized. How long until our message reaches New Terra? At least 2 more days, John answered. And it will be at least a week before any vessels could arrive from there. Lisa made a decision. We need to find the other facilities before they do. Atlas mentioned 5 other installations. Let's get their locations from the database. Alan, who had been quiet during the meeting, spoke up. Captain, I've been studying the Atlas systems. There's something else you should know. The defense network that sent the signal, it's not just a communication system. Earth has orbital defense platforms. Weapons? Lisa asked, surprised. Alan nodded. Advanced ones. Currently dormant, but according to the database, they can be activated by authorized personnel from any Atlas facility. Our ancestors left Earth with protection. Over the next 24 hours, the Pathfinder crew worked frantically to locate the other Atlas facilities. They discovered installations beneath the former sites of Beijing, Cairo, Sydney, Moscow, and Rio de Janeiro, each containing specialized knowledge and technology. Meanwhile, more Zalthori vessels arrived, bringing their total to 7 ships in Earth orbit. Their shuttles continued to land across the planet, searching for technology to salvage. Lisa was in the main Atlas control room with Samantha when an alarm sounded. The holographic interface activated, showing a 3-dimensional map of Earth, with a flashing red dot in what had once been Brazil. The Rio facility has detected an attempted forced entry, the Atlas hologram reported. Zalthori shuttles have landed directly above the installation and are using energy tools to cut through the outer shell. Can the facility defend itself? Lisa asked urgently. Limited defensive capabilities are active, but the primary defense network requires Level 1 authorization to activate. Lisa took a deep breath. If I give that authorization, what happens? The hologram's expression remained neutral. The orbital defense network will activate. Any unauthorized vessels in Earth orbit or within the atmosphere will be warned to withdraw. If they fail to comply, defensive measures will be taken. Lisa thought about the 7 Zalthori warships against her single exploration vessel. Without the orbital defenses, the Pathfinder wouldn't stand a chance. "Send a message to the Zalthori ships," she ordered. "Tell them to cease all salvage operations immediately and withdraw their teams from the Rio facility." "And if they refuse?" Samantha asked quietly. Lisa's expression hardened as she placed her palm on the authorization scanner. "Then they'll discover that these ancient relics still have teeth." The moment Lisa activated the authorization protocol, the entire Atlas facility hummed with new energy. Screens lit up around the control room, showing the status of Earth's long-dormant defense network. "Orbital defense platforms activating," the Atlas hologram announced. "Power cells charging. Weapon systems online in 3 minutes." Lisa opened a communication channel to all Zalthori vessels. "This is Captain Lisa Warren of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder. Our sensors show your teams attempting to force entry into a protected Earth facility. Withdraw immediately or face defensive measures." There was a pause before Ambassador Ziv Tal's voice responded. "Captain Warren, you have no authority to make such demands. Earth is an abandoned world under salvage conventions. Your single vessel cannot enforce your claim against our fleet." "I'm not enforcing anything," Lisa replied calmly. "Earth will defend itself." As if on cue, the room's displays showed dozens of points of light activating in Earth's orbit. Hidden beneath dust and debris for centuries, orbital platforms shed their camouflage and powered up weapons that had waited patiently for this moment. The Zalthori ship's sensors detected the sudden appearance of the defense platforms. Their communications filled with urgent chatter as they realized they were surrounded and outgunned. "Impossible," Keelmora's voice cut in. "These defenses were not detected in any of our surveys. They cannot be functional after centuries. The same power source that kept Atlas running has maintained the defense network," Lisa explained. "Project Sustain was more successful than even we realized." Alan, watching the sensor readings beside her, whispered in awe. "The platforms are using technology we don't even have on our colony worlds. Some form of directed energy weapons we never redeveloped." The largest Zalthori warship began powering its weapons. The defense platforms responded immediately, firing precise warning shots that disabled the ship's weapon systems without causing catastrophic damage. "This is your final warning," Lisa said into the communication channel. "Earth is not abandoned. It is not salvage. It is humanity's homeworld preserved for our eventual return. Withdraw your ships and we can discuss peaceful research cooperation." There was a long silence before Ziv Tal responded. "It seems we have underestimated your species, Captain Warren, and misjudged the situation. We will withdraw to a safe orbit to await diplomatic discussions." Over the next few days, a tense peace held as the Zalthori ships pulled back from Earth. 4 days after the confrontation, sensors detected new vessels entering the system. 5 ships from New Terra, led by the battleship Defiance, commanded by Admiral Frank Palmer. When Admiral Palmer came aboard the Pathfinder, Lisa was shocked to see how quickly the colonial authorities had responded. "We've been monitoring that signal from Earth for months," Palmer explained as they walked through the corridors. "We didn't have the right recognition codes to understand it, but we knew something was calling from the old homeworld. When your message arrived explaining what you'd found, we were already prepared to launch." In the conference room aboard the Defiance, representatives from both species gathered for formal negotiations. Admiral Palmer led the human delegation, while Ambassador Ziv Tal represented the Zalthori Confederation. "Our initial assessment of human technology was clearly in error," Ziv Tal acknowledged, their tone respectful where it had once been dismissive. "The preservation systems your ancestors created are beyond anything we have achieved. The people who built Atlas were facing the end of their world," Lisa said. "Necessity drove innovation. They knew they might not return in their lifetimes, so they built systems that would last for generations." Admiral Palmer nodded. "And now, centuries later, we can fulfill their plan. New Terra and the other colony worlds have stabilized. We're ready to begin the process of returning to Earth. The formal treaty that emerged from the negotiations recognized Earth as sovereign human territory. The Zalthori would be permitted limited research access to specific Atlas databases in exchange for helping with the planet's continuing restoration. 3 months later, Lisa stood on a hillside overlooking what had once been the city of Denver. New modular habitats gleamed in the sunlight, the first human settlement on Earth in centuries. Construction drones, their designs pulled from Atlas databases, worked efficiently to prepare more areas for habitation. Admiral Palmer approached, smiling as he handed her a data tablet. "It's official. The Colonial Council has appointed you as Earth's first governor. Congratulations, Governor Warren." Lisa looked out over the landscape where forests had reclaimed the ruins of the old world. "I never imagined when we followed that signal that we'd be coming home for good." "Your ancestors did," Palmer replied. "That's the most remarkable thing about all this. They planned for a return they knew they would never see." Later that evening, Lisa returned to the Atlas facility alone. The hologram greeted her as she entered. "The main control room. I have questions about the plan," Lisa said. "How did our ancestors know the Zalthori would come? How did they know we would return at this specific time?" The hologram's expression changed subtly. "Access to Level 1 special archives granted. Retrieving data." A new hologram appeared. An older woman in what appeared to be late 21st century clothing. "If you're seeing this message, then our calculations were correct," the recorded figure said. "My name is Dr. Eleanor Grant, Chief Architect of the Restoration Initiative. We knew humanity would need to leave Earth temporarily, but we also knew we wouldn't be coming back ourselves." The recording continued, explaining how the initiative's scientists had detected subtle signals from distant star systems, including the Zalthori homeworld. They predicted first contact would occur approximately 250 years after the Exodus, once both species had expanded their exploration range. "We timed the recovery of Earth to coincide with this contact," Dr. Grant's recording explained. "The defense network was designed to remain hidden until needed, and the recall signal was programmed to activate when Earth's biosphere had recovered enough to support large-scale human resettlement." Lisa listened in amazement as the message concluded. "If you're standing here now, it means everything worked as planned. Earth has healed. Humanity has survived among the stars. And now you've come home not as refugees, but as equals to any civilization you might encounter." The ancient relics they laughed at? They were just the beginning of our story. As the recording ended, Lisa looked through the facility's viewing window at the sunset painting Earth's sky in brilliant colors. The Zalthori ships were still visible, in orbit, now joined by vessels from the human colonies. The salvagers had become partners, the primitive relics had become respected artifacts, and the abandoned world had become home once more. Humanity had not just survived, it had planned for this moment across centuries. And now, standing on the soil of Earth, Lisa knew that the real story was just beginning.